Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the title of today's video is Confucius Philosophy, the Aspects of the Chinese Culture, and its Similarity to Freemasonry. Now, this is something that I was always fascinated by because a lot of the aspects of Masonry, which is to look east for the knowledge and the light, has been kind of overlooked in a way, especially with a lot of the Oriental cultures. And, my aspect and my efforts of being a bridge builder as a Mason focuses and helps me focus on these things and helps me bridge the gaps between the different cultures and communities. And the Chinese culture being one of those forgotten aspects that not too many people talk about, as we see here with the two images that, the aspects of the square and the compass and all the Masonic aspects of the philosophy of being upright are embedded in those ancient cultures. So please join me in covering this, and I hope you enjoy what I have to offer. Here we see the master himself, Confucius, also known as Kong or Zong in his Oriental names. He was a sage born into a noble but poor family in 551 BCE, and he lived up until 479 BCE. Now, he himself said that, the teachings that I profess are not my own teachings, nor is it a religion. And that was something he had believed he was passing on from his ancient ancestors, as veneration for the ancestors was part of that Confucius system. And how, that aspect of being upright and, standing on good conduct, make it all similar to Masonic values. And it is a philosophy that has existed in the East 2,000 plus years before Masonry's official existence. And, the beauty of Masonry is that it has existed since man has existed on this realm. And you can see the aspects of Masonry in each philosophy and religion that exists on this planet. And it shows you the oneness in everything, that when you really look for those signs and aspects of relating it to Freemasonry, you will find it. And this philosophy being one of them. Now, Confucius, he did not teach any religion, but rather moral and spiritual lessons for one to emulate and be good citizens. He believed the success of a society when its rulers and citizens are in harmony amongst one another, and focusing on a belief system studied all over Asia that focuses on obedience, respect, morality, uprightness. Now, Confucius always emphasized, maintaining the social relationships between government and man, and how even in Masonry you have someone that has to live under the government in which he lives peacefully as a cheerful citizen, conforming to all the laws and regulations, and focusing on the aspects of charity, kindness, justice. And as time went on, Confucius was able to revive a lot of those aspects in the Chinese culture which were forgotten, especially in his time, as the times were getting more modernized. So Confucius always said that you have to champion strong relationships, loyalty, respect for your elders, husband for their wives, wives for their husband, the ideal family outlook, and how even in Masonry, the real treasure of Masonry is the relationships and the memories we build with one another, the fellowship, the love. A lot of even Masonic functions, they have ladies' night, or they honor their past masters, they honor their elders. So, it's all relative about doing unto others as what you want done to yourself, which was like the main Confucius golden rule as well. And his teachings still have a great impact on Chinese society and even the world. And Confucius himself said that this doesn't belong to me, this belongs to everyone. And, as a brotherhood, that's the beauty of this philosophy. Now, the volume of the sacred law and the concept of the supreme being in Confucianism is there. And in Chinese culture, the analects, meaning conversation, that is the volume of the sacred law for the Confucian, and that focuses on the internal teachings and external teachings of what Confucius taught his disciples on personal relationships of an upright man with a self, family, government, and also the supreme being aspect, which is Tao, what Confucius himself called Tao, the great energy, that God is an omnipresent energy within us and around us. And this is supported by many religions as well, where even in Hinduism, they find the attributes of God in each different aspects. In the Christian Bible, in the book of Luke, you have kingdom of heaven is within. Holy Quran, Surah 50, where Almighty God says that we're closer to you than your jugular vein. So Confucius did believe in the aspect of a supreme being, or the one that is a Confucius does believe in the aspect of a supreme being in adherence to the laws of Masonry, of one being of a mature mind and age, and having a volume of sacred law, which were the Analects, and their concept of that omnipresent being known as the Tao, the great energy that is within us and around us and guides our moral and physical and spiritual actions in our life. And now even the Analects, the conversation, that's how Brother Masons learn from one another, by conversing with each other, by doing lectures. And that's what it was all about between the philosopher and his students. Everything was learned through conversation, where everyone be like, hey, let's talk, or let's link up, let's build together. So just their volume of sacred law means that alone, along with their concept of them being universal, of believing that God is everything around us, and that how we must always be upright in our actions and our thoughts, thinking good, knowing good, doing good, because those are the seeds that we plant that will grow tomorrow. And we cannot let any divisions or any aspects of society which try to divide us, or the aspects of the darkness which try to take us away from the light and divide us amongst our own brotherhood or families. And to know that, okay, the aspects of good and bad and exist everywhere. And if this aspect of the Tao God energy is within me, then it's within my neighbor as well. And once we come to that understanding of finding that divinity within each man, then we can have a more peaceful understanding and approach to the world. Not saying, not getting into those arguments of who's right and who's wrong, but coming into that aspect of the unity, saying that, hey, we're all here for each other. And that's a beauty that Confucianism shares with Freemasonry as well, is that oneness and that internalness between all walks of life and creeds of the world, because we're all part of that same energy. Now we focus on the main principles and the main relationships of Confucianism. The first principle being Li, the ceremonial rites, rules to be an upright man, the importance of ritual and its proper respect. These hold the society together. Now, the ritual worship is to bring peace to your heart and serve others. One who becomes worshipful is one who is close to God. The material ritual worship of the material being and inner worship of the heart must unite as one in order to be perfect with God, or the Tao energy, as Confucius teaches us. If your heart is lacking, then ritual will only give you rank, not divinity. Now, this is a very important aspect, because we are from that source, and that's the source that we return to, our original source. And the tenet of, or the main principle of Li teaches us that we must honor these rites, and we must honor that worship within us, so we could do that for each other. Now, a lot of people have that misconception, is that you cannot serve two masters at once. But they forget that aspect, that divinity is within each one of us, and that by addressing someone as worshipful doesn't mean that you're addressing them as a divine being, but you're addressing them as someone who's close to the divine. And one who possesses those qualities is one who is indeed worshipful. One who just memorizes stuff just to memorize it, if he's not professing it truly in his thinking, knowing, and doing on a daily basis, then that's just something that he has for this life. That's something that he will not carry to the next realm, or have acronyms or honorary titles. If you're not truly about that, then that won't mean anything. Just like how you're a Mason majority of your time outside the lodge room, especially now with the COVID situation, where you majority of your time is either with your family, at your job, in your community, with your friends, on social media. So the concept of Li And that principle of Li, where the rules to be an upright man and the importance of all of those ceremonial rites is what hold you together and what holds society together. When you have the ceremonial rites of, religion, people have different ceremonies that they have to go through. So ceremony is a very important aspect of our lives, whether fraternally, philosophical groups or religious groups. You will find those aspects everywhere, which brings one to manhood. Now, going to Ren, a humane and benevolent society. Now, we need that in today's world more than ever, because now we're always finding aspects of division and people putting one against the other. And Ren teaches us is that everyone has that oneness within them. Now, I can go outside to, the local area, let's say to the local train terminal I have, and one religion will have their table set up with their pamphlets, and the other religion or group will have their table set up with their pamphlets, and one is saying that we're right, they're wrong, the others are saying we're right and they're wrong, but nobody's teaching human unity, not just even within those scenarios, but even in the political situation we face, or philosophical or moral situation we face. Nobody's teaching any kind of human unity. Everybody's teaching some kind of division. And Ren teaches us is that anyone or anything that causes division is ungodly, and those are the agents of chaos and darkness that exist in every race, religion, and creed, just like how the goodness and light exist in every race, religion, and creed. So you must watch out for those traps, because the followers of this Confucius code, or if you're following Masonic values, you understand what Ren means. A humane and benevolent society that focuses on faith, hope, charity, and goodness for all mankind. Now, Shu, number 3, karma, empathy, and the ideals of loving your brother as yourself. And this is a golden rule, which can be found everywhere as well, even in Masonry, that you must wish for your brother what you must wish for yourself. And if you cannot do that, then you are not a true follower of that craft. And you must have that love and light within yourself, and realize that your brother carries that same love and light within yourself too. And you don't, destroy that by arguing each other online about tattoos, or how to wear a ring, or whose jurisdiction is correct, or if you're calling somebody a brother in lodge, you're posting stuff against their viewpoints or their race or religion online, which destroys that trust. So Shu tells you to have some integrity, because the man of God is the one who honors his friends and the one who keeps his word. And that's not, that's just not a place where you meet at a place just to call him a brother for 1 or 2 nights a week. You have to do that all the time. In your thinking, knowing, doing, waking, sleeping, you embody that always. And that's what Shu teaches you. That karma, what you put in, that's what you'll get out. If it's positive, that's what you'll get. If it's negative, then that's what you'll get too. So we must always focus on that ideals of loving each other as ourselves. Now, Yi, always be upright and righteous in your dealings with self and others. And that's the concept of Masonry as well. Always be an upright man, and always be righteous and helpful and loving in your dealings with yourself, your friends, your family, and others, because that's what makes you who you are as a benevolent being. And always remain pure. We must always remain pure, and we must always be in that alchemical transformation of our lower nature into our higher nature in our aspects of self-improvement. And now we go to number 5, Chow, which is piety for your elders and their due respects. Now, in a society where morality has broken down a lot, we see these values still preserved for those that still follow it. And even in Masonry, where you have the elder members and the past masters that are always given their due respects in all matters whatsoever that present itself. Same thing with Confucianism, where you must give reverence to your mother, your father, the elders in your life, and give them their due respect, because it's because of them that you're standing here today. When you were born, your mother and father worked hard They went out there, they dealt with the craziness of this world, brought food to the table, took care of you, went many sleepless nights with you. So when they get older, because our real nature is a childlike nature. When we are born into this world, we are a helpless child, and we need someone to love for us and care for us and nurture for us. And when we return, start getting back to that phase again in our adult age or in our older phase of life, then we start returning back to that source from where we originally came, becoming helpless again, and depending on the love and empathy of others in order to make it to where you are. So if you have older parents, sometimes they don't understand. Be empathetical. Be empathetical and don't raise your voice at them, and understand that one day I'm going to get to that position too. And just like what Shu is saying, that the karma does come back. So do good with your parents so one day your kids will do good to you. Okay, now we move on to the relationships. Number one, the relationship between the ruler and the subject. That could be the master of the lodge and the brothers under him. You could have a Sufi organization. You have the sheikh and the disciples. You could have other places where you have the leader and the followers. So in order for harmony to present itself, even in government, you could have a president and the citizens of his country. If there's no harmony between the two, then there's destined chaos to happen. And that's what, one of the aspects of Confucianism is. You must honor those aspects of harmony between the state and its citizens and subjects. Number two, the relationship between the father and the son. Now, whatever the father instills in his son, that's what will happen. That's how he will grow up. If you're making the effort to nurture, care, and mentor your child, then your child will not become a victim of society or a victim of any agendas of darkness which seek to destroy the loving nature of that being and corrupt it by having it fall astray into a path that it's not meant to. So that relationship, and even the son has to honor, thy father. So the son and the father, they have to have that, mutual respect with each other, so they can both benefit each other. So the father can instill the values that one day that son, when he becomes a father, he can pass it on to his son, and he will inherit that karma through the principle of Shu. And he will inherit that good karma. If he was good with his father, his son will be good with him. Number three, the relationship between the husband and the wife. Now, it's even in the Masonic aspect, before you join, they would always need your wife's permission, because your wife and your household comes first before anything. And those are the most important factors. Even in Masonry, you have the reverence for honoring your lady or ladies' nights at the different bodies that present itself with the social events. So your family comes first, always, and you must honor your family. Now, many in, I guess in the U.S. aspect that I've seen it, I can't speak for other places. So in the U.S. aspect, if, one doesn't take a chair in his lodge, they get upset at him. But you don't realize is that the main core of Masonry is putting your family first and putting their needs first before anything else. So the relationship between the husband and the wife is very important. Hence why when one joins, they ask your wife for permission. So the aspect of honoring that divinity between the man and the woman in the union that they both share when they become one, and become one with that God energy of the Tao, because with the Tao energy, God is an omnipresent being. It's a genderless, sexless being, and that's the energy that it presents. And then you must honor that union with your wife as well when you get to that level. 4, the relationship between the older brother and the younger brother. And that's very important too, because the siblings, or if you're in a lodge, you have brothers of different generations interacting with each other. You must humble yourself to learn from one another. I'm 28 years old myself. I don't claim to have all the answers of life, nor do I, will say that I do. If I know that there's somebody that I can learn from, I will humble myself. I will correct myself if needed and learn from them. And I have seen situations where those older from me that did not know the things that I did gave me that same respect. So we must do that for each other. And I see too many, people, some good-hearted people, because of the lack of understanding, even in Masonry, where they have fallouts with each other because they don't realize that the aspect that I can learn from him, he can learn from me. Let's find a middle path and not be on any kind of extremity which divides us as a brotherhood, and walk on the middle path and walk away with more respect with each other. Okay, this is what I stand, this is where you stand. How do we walk away respectfully from this? And that's what's lacking today, and that's what one of the main relationships of Confucianism teaches us that can benefit us. I mean, not just in the Masonic aspect, but any other aspect you look at it. It's all about perception at the end. The same can be applied to number 5, the relationship between the older friend and the younger friend. It's just like the older brother and the younger brother. You must find that middle path and realize that we're all walking each other home in our journeys. We're all an extension of that divinity, experiencing this reality together. And we must honor those aspects of each other by knowing that we're walking each other home and we owe this love and light to each other. And in my experience, the beauty and the truth of Freemasonry are the relationships and memories you build with one another. And that's the reality that many overlook in their journeys. But, when you tie that into the Confucius teachings, it shows you how similar both paths are. And to honor those relationships, because those are the ultimate treasures you hold in the end in your heart and in your life. One of the most revered followers of Confucius is Mencius, who's known by his birth name Mencius. Mencius was a revered scholar, sage, and one of the principal interpreters of Confucianism. Now, when he was born, he had lost his father to a young age, and his mother was very affluential in his upbringing. So at a very young age, he was already a widow's son. And, we make that Masonic connection where he makes a statement like this 2,000 years before 1717 in China, where he writes, "A master mason, in teaching his apprentices, makes use of the compasses and the square. Ye who are engaged in the pursuit of wisdom must also make use of the compasses and the square." Additionally, in the book called Great Learning, 500 BC, we find that a man should abstain from doing unto others what he would not they should do unto him, and this is called the principle of acting on a square. Now, most people would say that, okay, where does the square and the compass originate from? And most have that, the narrative from the 1717 perspective that it was by the stone builders and the cathedral builders in Europe. But since Masonry has existed since the inception of man, we must know that, the great teachers and the philosophers of the East already had these symbols and already had this knowledge and light, and were, making libraries and philosophies. But, that's the point of my channel, is to focus on things that are often avoided and not talked about in the Western Masonic education system, where those in the East are never given their original credit for already knowing and doing these things long before history even came into any official fruition. Now, we go into Mencius's background. He served as a scholar. He was a traveler. He was basically a traveling man. He would go to different rulers here and there in the warring states and give them consultation and advice. And he loved his mother so much that when his mother passed away, he took off a certain amount of time just to mourn his mother's death. That's how much he loved her, because of the upbringing she gave to him when he did not have a father, and it was only himself and his mother. And his mother is also held up in a great regard in Chinese culture. And Mencius' mother, she moved him from one location to another because she knew the child was gifted, and she wanted him to be in a place where he could exemplify those gifts and be a scholar, and to be someone that would be there to help humanity in its quest to uplift them and to uplift the Chinese peoples, especially his efforts to go from one warring state, to another warring state to try to get them to reconcile with each other. And that's the beauty, that it's one of the aspects of Confucianism, where the parent and the child and the child and the parent, how important it is for us to regard those relationships, and to know that we must always revere them, because the aspect of karma is always there as well. We must address these aspects of karma and doing good unto others, and knowing that what you do with your parents, your kids will do with you. And he honored his mother, his mother honored him, and he was one of the great scholars that even in the year 2020 we're still talking about him. And that's the beauty of all of that, of one of the rights of what it means to be a great scholar, and one who acts on the square, like Mencius is teaching us. And even if you read Albert Pike's Moral and Dogma, I think it's between the 100 pages or the 200 pages area, where he regards Buddha as one of the first Masonic legislators. So we must be open to that, knowledge that Masonry has existed in the East long before, what the official narrative tells us. And we must be open to that knowledge. This is another aspect of ancient Chinese history which I found fascinating, and its connections to Freemasonry, is the ancient painting of Hua and Fuxi, over 2,000 years old, from the Han Dynasty. Hua and Fuxi, are these divine beings reconstructing the world after the Great Flood that had happened. And many can make the Masonic connection to that too, with Noah's Ark and the things that tie into that. And they are holding the square and the compass, which, adding on to the previous slide, where many said, where did the square and the compass come from? Where were they depicted in ancient history? And they are holding the square and the compass, rebuilding and repopulating the world after the Great Flood had taken place. Now, Nuva represents heaven with the compass, which is the female aspects, and Fuxi represents the square, which is earth. So heaven and earth, where even you have the triad society, the society of man, heaven, and earth. So male and female, yin and yang, the creator being androgynous. They represent the balance we must achieve within ourselves, both masculine and feminine. Now, myself as a Sufi Muslim, when we realize that when you recite Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, you start with Allah, who is the genderless, transcendental being, then the feminine Rahman, the Quranic aspect, and the masculine Rahim, which includes all the principles of the universe. This is why a Muslim is not considered a whole being with his faith until he has a mate, which is his other half. And in the Holy Quran, chapter 17, verse 110, Allah says that besides Allah, you can call me by Rahman, which is a merciful feminine name. This story of the feminine is practiced, and the aspect of the feminine and masculine being united, not just with the story of Nuwa and Fuxi, but from my Sufi Islamic aspect, is that they try to the story of this is practiced in many occult traditions, with those that try to be feminine and masculine at the same time and achieve that balance of the perfect genderless beings that only the divine has. And we see here is that we must hone those within ourselves. Now, expanding on Nuwa and Fuxi from the previous slide, in this painting you see that the sun is all the way at the top and the moon is at the bottom. Then you have the constellations and the Big Dipper, and then you see how Nuwa and Fuxi represent the aspects of heaven and the earth, with the square and the compass, male and female, yin and yang, the sun and the moon, and all of those things which tie them all together, including how from the bottom they're coiling up with their serpentine energy, and how that's reflective of the DNA, how that's coded, which was discovered in the 1950s, but it was depicted in this order of the male and female, depicting that genetic code together in an ancient painting. Now, A lot of people say that, why is the serpent depicted on top of the Pharaoh's crown? Why do you have the aspect of the serpent circling the world? Why do you have a serpent on, world logos, on medical logos? Because the serpent wisdom is the one that helps you, become one with the divine. Now, there's been a lot of misinformation out there that tells you that the serpent is evil, but that's the snake. You have a dirty snake in the grasp, and then you have the serpent with his wisdom and his knowledge, and that you have that within yourself as a human being, where you have that lower nature that and once you unlock that, then you have the kundalini energy that shoots up through your spine and coils up like a serpent, and you break through that barrier. And once you break through that barrier and make a connection with the Most High, that's when you start discovering your true nature, what you stand for, and who you're really about. And then the aspects of getting close to God, that's what Masonry is about. That's what Confucianism is about, getting close to that Tao energy and unlocking that energy within yourself. And to know that you must be able to maintain that connection. Because if you do, lose that connection, then it takes you a while to, get that again. Because once you start walking that path of righteousness, you will be tested and tried, no matter what spiritual path you choose to follow. You will have elements of bad habits, bad past friends, anything from the past that, brought you down. It will continue to keep coming after you. So you must continue to chip away at your rough ashlar and continue to perfect yourself as Nuva and Fuxi, with their serpentine energy and their knowledge, are coiling up to the heavens, holding the square and the compass. We must accomplish that within ourselves as well. And then we see on the right hand side is another depiction of their painting where they're holding the aspect of the square, or one of the older symbols, which was a representation of the square and the compass. And we must continue to learn these things and know that in a great perilous times such as today, where the human heart is under attack and men and women are being kept separated from each other, we must realize that who benefits from this, where promiscuous, they're being taught to be promiscuous, and men are taught to do mikto and hate women. I've seen that very prevalent in the West, and I'm someone from the East, so I offer my perspective that why is that happening? Because once men and women become one and they hone and honor that energy within themselves, then you become very powerful beings and you become a very powerful society. And when you have a man, woman, and child together, just like how that's depicted on the painting on the right hand side, as that serpentine energy, you must unlock that within yourself, and be able to honor these symbols and the aspects of what we saw in Confucianism, of the relationships and the different codes and the ceremonial rites, and how that's prevalent in Freemasonry as well. We must not lose our focus of what did the divine put us here to do. What is our purpose? Are we just here to fight and argue amongst one another, or have fallouts with family, friends, our wives, our mothers, our children? Or do we have a greater purpose here? And then we look at these figures and realize we do have a greater purpose here. And we must continue to exemplify that and not let any aspect of the darkness or those that perpetuate the darkness take us away from that light. A lot of people have that question if the Grand Lodge of China still exists today. And the Grand Lodge of China does exist. It was established in 1949, a little bit after the independence of China, or the establishment of China. And it stayed, I believe, in that area until, before the communist takeover. And then when that happened, they moved to Taiwan with the other aspects of the original Chinese government. And they're still there to this day. They're regular recognized, and they visit with many delegations outside of Taiwan in different countries. And one of their Grand Masters was here in Washington, D.C. not too long ago, visiting the Supreme Council. So, any brother that has an aspect to visit Taiwan to experience Chinese Masonry can do so in a regular recognized aspect. I found this aspect very fascinating when I was researching the connections between Confucianism and Freemasonry. And I found this beautiful connection between a quote from Confucius and one of the Latin mottos of the United Grand Lodge of England, which is "Hear, see, be silent, audis vide taci," if I'm saying that correctly. And Confucius himself says that I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. And this teaches you that you must find that humbleness within yourself to not give a reaction to everything. If you hear something, then take it to your understanding. Don't degrade it in any way. If you see something, keep in mind what those lessons are teaching you. And if you do something, just keep it to yourself and know that your integrity and your bond and your love for God is what defines you as a human being. And these are the values that teach us to be upright men, whether it's from a Confucius aspect or from a Masonic aspect. You must always be a man of your word, always be upright, always honor those rights and aspects of your conduct, and knowing that okay, what I put in is what I'll get back. And my knowing, thinking, and doing must always be at a high exemplary level, where those relationships, such as an older friend, younger friend, older brother, younger brother, husband, wife, your mother, father, so all of those things you honor with the utmost integrity, and know that in times of great division where one is being put against the other, you must not fall into these distractions, knowing your true purpose and your higher calling. This is one of my favorite quotes from Confucius, where he says, "The perfecting of oneself is the fundamental base of all progress and all moral development." And, the connection with Freemasonry is that you must always continue to chip away at the rough aspects of your ashlar and your imperfections so you can become that perfect ashlar stone and that perfect being in our quest to return back to that divinity from whence we came. Now, from a Sufi aspect, we believe that a mineral goes to a plant, plant goes to an animal, animal goes to man, man goes to angel, and angel goes back to God. Hence why we say when someone passes away, to God we belong and to him we shall return. And how Rumi was saying at one time in his life that I have no disappointments because I know I will continue to exist in some way, shape, or form as an energy, where I might come back as something else, or I might return to that source, to my beloved. So we must continue to realize that we're in a spiritual school. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're all walking each other home. And, the world is a stage, like Shakespeare also said, and we must continue to not fall into any traps that are there to keep us away from our evolution as men and as a brotherhood, and to realize that, okay, we're here walking each other home, we owe this love to each other, and we must continue to be in a state of self-improvement. And anything that's not taking you to that level, just know that it's not for you, and it's ultimately designed to harm you or cause fallouts between you and people that you love. So we must always be in that aspect of what Confucius is saying, is that the perfection of oneself is the fundamental base of all progress and moral development. Anything outside of that is not helping you get better or get closer to your family or your friends or to Almighty God is something that's not for you. Another one of my favorite quotes from Confucius is that the superior man is modest in his speech, but excels in his actions. And we must realize that, to be, that perfect ashlar stone, we must be careful of how we think, how we talk, how we conduct ourselves on all levels. Now, online, I see people, this is my favorite one to address, is I see people and they're arguing about rings, tattoos, about jurisdiction issues, and they're just arguing with each other about politics and different things. And now your person who, let's say, is your neighbor, is your school friend, college friend, and he's seeing this argument take place between brother Masons on a, let's say, a political topic or some kind of social topic, and he would realize, hey man, I mean, they're not too different from your average people. They're just falling into the same traps and, same situations of chaos and disunity, just like your average person. So what makes them stand out from, your average profane person out here in the world? So what Confucius is saying is that in order for you to be a better man and a good man, you must teach others that this is who I am, how I act, and how I conduct myself. Now, I myself, I don't wear any Masonic shirts or, any rings or anything like that. And how I teach others about who I am, what about my Sufi Islamic identity or my Masonic identity, is through my conduct and my character, where I make them come ask me, hey man, who are you really? Where did you learn these good manners? How did you learn to talk like this? How did you learn to write like this? How did you learn to do all of these things? So I make them come ask me. I don't show myself in any way. Or, I try to tell them that, I'm this and I'm that. And at the end, I'm fighting with people just like how the profane are with each other. And then they look at you like, oh, they're not too different from me. So you got to be the better example. You can't just, quote scriptures, or those that quote scriptures, but, their dealings with others, they treat each other terribly. Just like how you have those that might go to the mosque and pray 5 times a day, and some of them are not good people. So you have those that go to church every Sunday, but some of them are not good people. They're plotting and scheming against one another. So, yeah, it's you try to understand what I'm trying to tell you here in relation to what Confucius is teaching us in this quote, is that always be the good example. Don't fall into any traps, and be a good, beautiful person in your heart and your knowing and your thinking and doing, and see the oneness and beauty in everything. As a child, as a Muslim, I would go to the Christian church, read the Bible with them. Then on the same day, I would go to the mosque and read the Quran. I would go to the Sikh Gurdwaras and see how they did charity by giving out food to the people, because I saw the oneness and that human unity and that human beauty, just like how Masonry teaches us, and what Confucius is teaching us about the Tao energy, that it's within us and around us. So be the better example. Stand out from the rest of the crowd and let them come ask you who you are. You don't have to show them in any way. And watch how beautiful your life gets once you start walking that path of purity and not having any malevolent intentions for anybody. A clean, pure heart is what will help you get back to the divine once this life is over. I want to thank everyone for watching this presentation. I hope you were able to learn something about the aspects of Chinese culture and Confucianism, and why they honor relationships and persevering in all that they do, and how we can learn from that ourselves, whether you're a Sufi, a Mason, or whatever spiritual path you follow. I hope you were able to get some light and understanding from this about the Chinese culture and Confucianism. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmonshake911@gmail.com. All images and thumbnails were retrieved from public domain searches and are the rightful property of their owners. I claim no ownership, and I'm using it under the copyright laws of fair use education purpose. My videos are always non-profit and for the purpose of education and awareness. All rights reserved. And thank you all for continuing to stand by me and supporting my channel. I'm truly grateful for you all.